Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to look at how to draw a soil profile for a gley soil, which appears in the higher biosphere topic. And I'm going to show you not just how to draw your diagram, but I'm also going to give you some suggestions about the labels and annotations you could add to your diagram in order to access all of the marks. Now, in this exam question, you're typically asked to draw a diagram that describes the main characteristics of a soil profile. And in this case, we're looking at the gley soil. So you might not draw a diagram like the one you can see on the screen. And as a matter of fact, what I would tend to recommend that you do is start by drawing a rectangular box, something like this, that actually shows your soil. I've got a very thick line here, so I'm just going to reduce the size slightly. What you're then going to want to do is add the soil profiles levels in. So you're going to do a dividing line for your C. You're going to make your B much bigger and your A up here. Now, other key things that you're going to want to add is the actual labeling. So we're going to have a C, a B, and an A. And up here, we actually have another layer called the O, or the AO, as it's sometimes called. Now, that is the beginning of a construction of a good soil profile. And what's important is that you are showing that the B layer is actually much bigger than the A, because what you want to avoid doing is drawing a ladder diagram where your A, B, and C are exactly the same width. Because when you actually look at a real soil, the A, the B, and the C will have different depths. Okay, other key information you now want to add in, which achieves the first marks, is the color. So in our gley, our A has a dark grayish A horizon, and you'd want to probably write that inside your diagram. In contrast, the B has a kind of a blue-gray color to it. So you'd want to write that down where you have your B horizon. Okay. If you have a color pencil, you might put little red specks into your B that you can see on the diagram. But if you've got black and white pen, then you'll just want to add specks. That's important for later on when we start adding our labels. Now, let's have a little think about what are the labels you're going to want to add to this diagram. Well, at the top of your soil profile, you're going to want to tell me about the fact that our vegetation is likely to be a mixture of rushes, meadowland, mosses, and lichens. So that's the type of vegetation that you associate growing at the surface of a gley soil. You then want to start working your way through the soil. So you want to tell us that our soil is likely to be very wet and cold because it's a cold climate, and that this is a waterlogged soil. That's a kind of key important bit of information, that we have a waterlogged soil, but it's also important to know that the climate is very wet and cold. We have very little soil biota. Now, these are the living organisms in the soil. Worms are really good examples of this, and there aren't many in this soil, and that is because we have what's called anaerobic conditions. So that means our soil lacks oxygen. But you'd actually want to revise the word anaerobic conditions, because that's a key feature of the soil. So our soil's got very low oxygen levels, which is why we have very little soil biota. Okay, our B horizon is much thicker. I talked about that at the start. You want to indicate a difference in terms of the sizes of each of our horizons. And our parent material down at the bottom in our C horizon is going to be poorly weathered parent material. That means it's not broken up very much. And it's also going to be impermeable. What is it? Well, water can't drain into it because it's going to be clay. So it's likely that our C horizon is made up of clay, or it might be permafrost. That means it's semi-frozen, kind of conditions that you'll find in the Arctic. Right, let's have a look at some other labels. So we've got some key features here. We have leaching of our soil. So it's a heavily leached soil, our gley. We want to say that in that label. And it means that lots of our iron that's in our soil get deposited in the B horizon. Okay. And that's what creates a red mottling in our soil. Now, we're not being asked to explain in this question. If we were asked to explain, we'd say that's because the iron compounds are oxidizing, which leads to them sort of rusting effectively, which is why in the B horizon we get these kind of red spots. Right, so there we have red mottling in the B horizon. We have lots of clay particles. This is a very clay-rich soil, and because we have lots of clay particles, we end up with quite a silty texture to this soil. And our last label is to do with the type of humus that we find in both the O and the A horizon, and it's a moor humus, which is a very acidic humus. It's the similar type of humus that we would find in the podzol, which is another of the two soils. So what is the skill you have to demonstrate here? In an exam, this could be an 8-mark question. You may very well and are likely to be asked to draw a diagram, and you must add annotations that tell us about the main characteristics. It is unlikely that this skill will require you to explain all of the differences in this soil, and that would be another exam question.